So one of the reasons I picked this training session as a session that I thought would be fun to properly go through was because of the interactions, maybe even lack thereof, between Anton Pliesnoi and Meso Hassona, two of the best 96s in the world. You can see behind Lasher, who's just warming up his squat here, you can see Anton Pliesnoi. In fact, here comes Meso Hassona. They engage very briefly, they say hello, and then I think what's notable there is you can see that Anton Pliesnoi's coach comes over to say hello to Meso Hassona. I guess because they're both Olympic champions. They've seen each other in training halls. There's a mutual respect there. But what was interesting here is that Meso decided to come and train on the platform directly behind Anton Pliesnoi, even though that wasn't actually his platform. Everybody was given a certain area they had to train in. Meso was normally on the far area where you can see, in fact, some of Team USA are training. That's really where he was supposed to be. But he came and he parked up right behind Anton Pliesnoi. And I can't help but think that there was some intention there, whether that was to just get a better look at the kind of shape that Anton Pliesnoi was in, to find out whether his leg had or hadn't healed properly since the Olympic Games, or whether it was to put a little bit of pressure on him, or just to gain a bit more of an exciting atmosphere, as we know that he likes to do. There we go again, Giorgi Asanidze and Meso's brother just saying hello there, opposing teams, competitors, and yet somewhat friendly in the training hall. Now, I guess for those of you who don't remember, here we are, we've got Ravas Davitadze, the 89 lifting, one of my favourite lifters too. That behind him as well, lifting just the empty bar, is Kaki Asanidze. That's Giorgi Asanidze, the Georgian coach's son, named after Kaki Kakishvili. So here's Pliesnoi. For those of you who don't remember, or who may be new to weightlifting, to start with, Anton Pliesnoi is known for having some of the most interesting technique in the world. It's perhaps not textbook in many ways. He doesn't actually totally extend, that is, open up his knees as he finishes his snatches and his cleans, but his positioning is very nice. He's very quick under, he's very solid in the catch. And he ended up taking the bronze medal at the Olympic Games just 5 months prior to this. He's a better snatcher than Meso Hassona, but he doesn't have the same level of strength. So we've seen 178 kilos in the snatch from Meso as a competition best, whereas from Anton Pliesnoi we've seen 180 and 181. So he's a multiple-time 180 plus snatcher. He's always a few kilos over Meso. In the clean and jerk, though, it's a different story. And here's Rezi showing us his moves. A light day for Lasher. I can't remember exactly what he works up to, we'll see, but some light push press. This tends to be the sort of stuff that he does after a heavy day. This might have been the day after his 215, 250, I can't quite remember. But you can see there, Meso is keeping an eye on Team Georgia. He's laughing, he's smiling. I don't know who he's got eye contact with. It might even be Lasher. He's looking that direction. But in the clean and jerk anyway, historically, Anton Pliesnoi has been a 210 to 215 kind of lifter. He has cleaned and almost jerked 220 in competition, but the most he's ever done is 215. Whereas Meso, he's hit 228 kilos. That was at the Qatar Cup 2019 that I was at, where I filmed him, having spent quite a while living with him. He's also clean and jerked 225. In fact, I think at the Olympics he did 177, 225, I think it was that Meso hit. Whereas, like I said, Pliesnoi is a 215 kind of clean and jerk. So there's a difference there. In fact, I think Meso Hassona, his best ever total, 404. Anton has done 394. So there's a 10 kilo difference there, but he's still always a threat. And I think the reason Meso was so interested in the kind of shape that his future world champion Meredith Owen, the reason that he was so interested in Anton's shape was because Meso knew that he wasn't in the best shape of his life. He was coming off a good few years of competition, having, most recently just become Olympic champion, but he hadn't trained anywhere near as much since the Olympics as he would have for a normal World Championships, because of course this World Championships just didn't mean quite as much. And so he was aware that he was probably not going to be in the 180, 230 shape that he would one day hope to be in, and he's probably going to be more down at the low 70s, low 20s kind of shape, and he wanted to make sure that Pliesnoi wasn't in great shape. I mean, if Pliesnoi turned up and was able to snatch 80 as he usually does, and then mid-teens, he could seriously beat Meso Hassona, and I think he wanted to keep an eye on that. Here's 130 from Anton. part of the reason it was interesting also is because Anton Pliesnoi, somewhat famously hurt himself at the Olympic Games on his opening attempt, came out in a second attempt and, was only able to pull the lift, didn't even attempt to go under. On the clean and jerk on his third attempt, heroically came out and made the lift and secured that bronze medal. It was a sensational display of competitiveness and drive and talent and hard work from Pliesnoi. And so there was a certain question of, is he going to be healthy? Has he recovered from that injury, or is he still sort of suffering, the fate of having pushed so hard for that gold medal? And the truth was, he was still suffering the injury. And here he is snatching 140, and it looks great, and he's snappy, and you can see why everybody likes him. But the reality of it was, he was injured, and he wasn't able to lift particularly well. And in the end, despite being someone who, had taken a bronze medal at the 2019 World Champs, a bronze medal at the 2021 Olympic Games, he ended up lifting in the B group a few days after this because he wasn't able to lift. He wasn't able to lift enough, and he knew he wasn't going to be able to lift enough. And despite snatching at a really impressive 170 kilos, at this World Championships, he only ended up clean and jerking 190 kilos. And I think he did it on his opener, and then he just left it there because he knew this is not going to be good for my knee. His meso now at 150 kilos. He chose an exercise that he is the master in to kind of, maybe show the Georgians that he is still the main athlete there in that category. His 160. Of course, it has to be mentioned. If I don't mention it, people will mention in the comment section. Of course, Tian Tao and Sarab Maradi aren't lifting at this competition. A slightly forward 160, but a 160 nonetheless. I think the difference in the mindset between these two guys is also really interesting. Meso Hassona, very outgoing, loves the attention, loves people watching, loves being a showman. Anton Pliesnoi is totally in his head. Yeah, he's very quiet. Even with me, when I go over and I chat to him, he's quiet. He tells me what he's doing for the day. He smiles. He's happy for us to be there. But once he starts training, he keeps his head down. And you even see that in the way that he interacts with the other Georgians. I mean, Revas and Lasher, who we see here squatting 275, they have fun. They have banter. They joke around to some degree. But yeah, Anton Pliesnoi does not really get involved in that at all. Here he is just doing some pulls at 160. But one of the things that I remember about this session was as Meso started working up, Giorgi Asanidze, Anton's coach, the Georgian coach, started taking more and more of an interest because he kind of realized, okay, I'm actually going to be able to see now. Not only am I going to be able to watch some great weightlifting and maybe, we can learn a thing or two for Anton, but also we're going to be able to work out what kind of shape Meso's in. We might be able to bet some better predictions as to what Meso is going to end up hitting at this competition. And I think actually in the end, the sort of the bravado and the confidence from Meso worked against him because he got a little bit of pressure on him with a lot of athletes watching him, with the coach watching him, and ended up, I suppose, pushing a little bit too hard. He wanted to be in the kind of shape that he was in at the Olympics, that he was in at the end of 2019. But the reality of it was that he wasn't. Here's 210, and you can see, Giorgi is right there watching, trying to gain a little bit of information. The clean looks good. And to be fair, that jerk looks fine. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as it has done in the past. But that's easy. That's easier than Pliesnoi's ever made it. But I think he felt a little bit too confident. He goes up again after this, and things just don't work out for him in the way that he would have wanted to in a room full of athletes and coaches trying to, garner information from him. Here's 295 from Lasher. Speedy triple. And everybody's watching. Everybody's got their phones out. So, 220 jump. And it wasn't there. He wasn't in the right space for it. And everybody saw it. Everyone watched him miss that. And that, I think did a lot to the psychology of Meso Hassona, who in the end would, amazingly end up not going on to win this World Championships. Despite being Olympic champion, Meso Hassona is still not a world champion. The truth is, becoming a world champion is often significantly harder than becoming an Olympic champion because there are fewer competitors at the Olympics. He didn't have to go up against a Tian Tao. And again, pulls in it, clerks it. He can't make himself go under. And there's Giorgi just taking it all in, learning it, coming over and reporting everything that he's noticed over to Anton and over to the Georgians and the other Georgian coaches. It was a really, really interesting session to watch there. But a few days after this, Meso would end up lifting 172 in the snatch. Here he is, he drops back down, builds back up. 172 in the snatch, 222 in the clean and jerk, which, considering he missed, he didn't even go under those 220 attempts, is amazing that he was able to do that for the win. There's a Weightlifting House Ireland t-shirt on Sean Brown. If you want to get those, head over to weightliftinghouse.com. But yeah, he did amazingly well to be able to go under it, under the 222 and make it, and he needed that for the medal. Here he is, huge 20 kilo jump. Asanidze back in position, watching Anton's competitor. Tough-ish clean, and can't make the jerk. And really what Meso has done there, he's played his cards, he's shown his hand, and he's sort of said, look, I can do 210, I can't do 220. Maybe I can do 215.